Hi beautiful people, this video is about what is a high functioning team. I want to answer that question for you and give you a different way of thinking about how to really begin to build one for yourself or improve the one that you're already on. I'd like to demystify what a high functioning team is beyond the buzzword of a high functioning team and really learn the practices that separate good teams from great ones. Many people think that their teams are high functioning because people are getting along and they're nice to each other and they're not yelling at each other. What I found is that smart people who want to make things happen and who are ambitious are for the most part nice people and don't actually like shouting at each other. So the shouting at each other is not really a good indication of whether or not it's a high functioning team. What I have seen is that when we really look at what are high functioning teams, there are 5 particular characteristics of a high functioning team that I've consistently seen. Those 5 are: they design and maintain explicit agreements, they practice executional awareness, they embed coordination practices into their daily work, they normalize repair and design, and they share language, standards, and trust. The teams that have effectively learned how to be able to do this on a consistent basis, and particularly have built a shared language amongst each other as a way of being able to do this, are the teams who end up being high functioning, highly resilient, and who are able to deliver amazing results together while, and I think the most important part of it, while enjoying what it is that they're doing and adding an enormous amount of value. I've worked with teams to help them move from being low functioning to being high functioning. What we've worked with them to do is to really build these capabilities into the day-to-day functioning of the team. So let's talk a little bit more about the capabilities. Design and maintain explicit agreements. Many times our teams function pretty much without any agreements. We might have agreements about showing up on time for meetings. We might have agreements about checking in our work when we have it done. We might have agreements about showing up on time for work and clocking in our 8, 10, 12 hours. But what we fail to do is we fail to build explicit agreements in our coordination with each other every single day. And one of the things that really helps organizations is when teams start building that in as a practice, because what it does is it allows us to reconnect with our humanity. It allows us to really bring our levels of mastery to the table and co-invent with each other in a deeply respectful way. And it also allows us to be able to understand when those agreements are and are not going to work. The second thing is they practice what I refer to as executional awareness. And the executional awareness is that they understand how work gets done. So they move away from relying exclusively on tools they use the tools as tools, but they move away from relying on them to explicitly do their coordination work for them. So they begin to understand that work gets done through networks of commitments that they make to each other. So those recurrent handshakes, those recurrent agreements, those recurrent "I commit that I will get this done for you," those promises. As you track those across an organization, what you will begin to see is that there are networks of them happening across the org. And if you can begin to understand what those are, map what those are, understand how they contextualize each other, then what you will do is you will build executional awareness into the team, and the team will begin to understand who their internal customers are for getting work done and how that work is actually going to get done through the cascade of other commitments that need to be made inside the organization. I was working with a fantastic team this week actually, and I introduced them to this idea of network and commitments, gave them a visual for what it looks like, and one of the members of the team said, "Okay, so this completely changes how I think about how work gets done in a larger organization." And the reason for that is because she could now visualize the network of commitments. And by being able to visualize those, she could see the importance of coordination in terms of being able to navigate it, being able to change it, being able to improve it, being able to understand where she fitted into the bigger context. And we talked about the idea that context actually makes you clever. So understanding the context that you're working in elevates your intelligence and your autonomy as you work on a high-functioning team. The third thing is that they embed coordination practices into their daily work. So if the network of commitments or the execution layer is the meta view, then the micro view is the actual individual commitments that are being made. And so the coordination practices of how do we make offers to each other? How do we make commitments to each other? How do we do those super important handshakes? How do we design together? How do we negotiate together? How do we allow people to say no when they're overwhelmed and they can't deliver on what it is they're being asked to do, so that we can actually understand where they need help and how we can help and support them in doing the work? How do we create space for us to be able to co-invent together, so you're bringing your mastery, I'm bringing mine, and we're able to do something that is much more powerful than either one of us could do? So the coordination practices embedded in daily work are a critical part of a high-functioning team. The fourth capability that I see is they normalize, repair, and redesign. And the reason for that is you're never going to get it right the first time. That actually doesn't exist when it comes to leading a team and dealing with human beings. The randomness of life and the randomness of our ability to be able to consistently deliver, even just from the perspective of, you know, being overwhelmed with life, being sick, having family to take care of, needing other things that you need to do in your life, going to medical appointments. Never mind that we might actually misunderstand each other or get confused about what it is that we're doing or not fully understand the standards. The repair and design conversations are an absolutely critical part. So we design for best case scenario and we expect the best case scenario to unfold. And that's fine, but the reality is the best case scenario doesn't unfold 100% of the time. Sometimes it doesn't even unfold 50% of the time. But normalizing repair and design as conversations that we need to have and practices we need to put in place is absolutely critical if you are looking to build and work in a high-functioning team. And then the fifth one, which is the shared language aspect of things and shared standards and building trust with each other. I think there's a general understanding now that high-functioning teams or even high-performing teams operate on a basis of trust. And without trust, we are constantly going to be second-guessing each other, and we're going to have a hard time really delivering, you know, innovation, delivering amazing value for ourselves and for our customers. So the shared language is critical, because without shared language, we're not seeing the same things. And without shared standards, we're not looking to attain the same things. And without trust, we don't trust each other to work together to be able to deliver on what it is that we're looking to do. And so those 5 elements of 5 capacities, I would really say, of high-functioning teams is something that you need to use both as a filter for when you're joining a team, when you're interviewing to join a team, both as a standard for yourself when you are taking responsibility for a team or leading a new team, or you're actually being asked to join a particular team inside your company. I would look at them through this lens, and I would become a lot more discerning around, do I want to work with a team that I don't consider to be a high-functioning team? How do I really understand what a high-functioning team is, both so I can join one, so I can be part of one, so I can build one, so that I can understand what sort of team I'm really joining. So as you go through this process for yourself, really encourage you to become more discerning around what is a high-functioning team, and how do I position myself on one, and who's the person in my org who actually builds these effectively and understands how to go about doing it. As you do it, I wish you the best of luck, because working on a high functioning team is usually really fun and you deliver a lot of value and you learn a lot. So get more discerning around the kind of teams that you're joining and learn how to be able to build high functioning teams yourself, because you'll be doing everyone else an enormous favor if you're leading one. There's help that I hope I can give you, which is my white paper, which is called Execution by Design. Help you to start thinking about the design of high functioning teams and what it means to actually build one and go about building one. There's a link down in the comments below, and the link is www.jenniferkenny.com/execution. It's also on my website under that same URL. Download it, let me know what you think about it, and I wish you the very best of luck. Take care.